all eyes across the nation are on what's happening in Wayanad right now. VK Sharma, I'll start with you now. Can we call this a natural disaster or is this a man-made disaster? And I'll tell you why I'm calling it that. That's because I just told you about the Madhav Gadgil report that was ignored. There's also a IIT Delhi report that came out earlier this year. It's called the National Landslide Susceptibility Map. And I'll tell you what it said. It said 59% of Wayanad is at risk of high to very high risk of landslide. A lot of such reports have been published. A lot of warnings have been given to the center and the state governments as well. But why aren't any actions taken to ensure that the death tolls are brought down or the situation is controlled in Wayanad?
Actually, you rightly said that, we have very, very sensitive areas like the entire Himalaya, Western Ghats, and you referred about the Madhav Gadgil report. There are many reports actually, and everybody is saying the sensitivity of this region, and the vulnerability is known that this area is highly vulnerable for landslide. And this is not a matter of research, because Wayanad is 60%, as you rightly said, is highly vulnerable. And whenever there is high rainfall, and this is because of climate change, and I think we should be having that kind of preparedness for that. There is a proper protocol of preparedness, and now there is science and technology which can play a very important role, particularly in landslides. There are sensors which tell you, that this area is going to have the landslide. And here we can see that, 3 landslide and the number of death toll, which has crossed 100. This is very, very unfortunate. I will say one thing, that I am also working in Sikkim, as I am Vice Chairman, Sikkim Disaster Management Authority. And we are also prone to, landslides. What we are doing is we are giving training, to the local people, to the panchayats. And these panchayats are becoming model panchayats actually. About 25 panchayats, they become model panchayats because, this is golden hour. Now NDRF, Army, everybody is on the scene. But I think in case community is trained in this, you could have saved many lives. So I think this is very important that the panchayats, the local bodies, the school children, the people in that area which is highly vulnerable for. And you ask a good question actually. The natural disaster or it is a hazard. These are all hazard actually. Nature gives hazard. We make them disaster. So I think it's all the disasters are man-made. Right. I'm not criticizing any government or anybody, but in case there is a proper preparedness, in case we have mitigation measure, now, Government of India is providing money for mitigation. And in landslide mitigation, I think there are ways. There are biological methods, there are engineering methods, and I think this area, every year in Kerala, we see landslides. So I think there should be a full plan and involvement of all the bodies, which are concerned. And I think this is a very, very important subject which we are discussing. I'm very, sad to hear this thing. It is the whole country is actually, it's not Kerala which is mourning for 2 days. I think the whole country is very sad on the demise of these people who lost their life for no fault of theirs. So nature, I think climate change,
Absolutely. Mr. VK Sharma, like you rightly said, all of us here stand in solidarity with what's happening in Kerala, stand in solidarity with the people of Kerala right now. Our forces are doing everything that they can to ensure that every person who has a chance of survival is rescued right now. And also a very important point that you also made there is the fact that community awareness, like you are doing, the work that you're doing in Sikkim, this is also something that the IIT Delhi report pointed out, that community awareness was also lacking in Wayanad. In fact, this isn't an old report. This is a report that just came out earlier this year. I'll take this point across to Jisha Surya there, who's a journalist joining us right now. Jisha, We're of course speaking to the experts here about the technical aspects of what really has happened, how it can be mitigated, and also all the steps that can be taken right now on the policy level, on the government level. Help us understand what's the government doing down there, because a lot of reports come out, a lot of warning signs are given out. Has there been any significant step being taken in Wayanad to ensure that the number of people affected by the landslides are brought down? Because if that was done, I don't think the death toll would be so high.
Yes, it is true that the Kerala government and the union government has slow pedaled on the expert panel report on the protection of Western Ghats. We particularly know that in 2011, there was this Western Ghat expert ecology panel report prepared by, which the committee was chaired by Madhav Gadgil. And it studied this Western Ghat areas comprehensively and suggested measures like classifying these areas into ecologically sensitive zones and take proper measures, including prohibition of quarrying and development activities in such ecologically fragile areas. But this was met with huge opposition at that time in 2011. And if both the center and state governments, heard because there was huge public protest. So there was a hesitation in accepting the suggestions made by this panel, and later another panel was constituted, which was headed by Kasturi Rangan, and it considered some of the local demands and suggested harsh measures, regulations only in around 37% of this
Jisha,
area.
are you saying there were?
But even
Jisha, 1 second. Are you saying there were protests when the people there were told that the land that they're living on, the land that they're working on, all of these are prone to landslide, and if there is ever a landslide incident, they could die? Even then, are you saying the public was protesting there, not really agreeing to it?
Yes, there was a huge public protest across most of the states along the high range areas of Kerala, because one thing we have to take into consideration, these are high density population in Kerala. If you check the density of population, it's very high. So these areas, people are living for a long time. So when these measures were suggested, this was not just certain small measures like stopping quarrying or mining or anything like that. There are measures, suggestions which people have had apprehensions about. Like, for example, certain red industries like hospitals could not be allowed. So there are a lot of apprehensions regarding whether hospitals could be allowed, where they could construct buildings with houses, roads. So people had a lot of apprehensions at that time. So there was huge public protest. It was not just the government, but there were huge protests that even politicians were afraid to speak openly about this in favor of these reports. That's why another panel was constituted. So people at that time, I am sure, were not very much aware of that ecological impacts. But I genuinely feel that situation might have changed after 2018 floods, because across Kerala, the impact of the flood was devastating. And after that, we are seeing back-to-back natural calamities. So the situation or the mood in 2011 might be different in 2024 right now. So I think there must be renewed discussions on reports like this. And as the first panelist, that expert said, local community should be involved in this discussion process. So I think Kerala government or the union government can initiate new steps to take people into confidence and discuss these things.
Absolutely. Jisha, like you rightly pointed out, community awareness is also very important.